Hello viewers, welcome to our DebtCircle podcast with CapitalXB, and our today's theme is decoding the credit demand MSME lending landscape. And with us we have today Mr. Ajitabh Bharti sir, who is an executive director and co-founder of CapitalXB. Sir, welcome to our podcast. Can we know a little about you and CapitalXB?
Yeah, so CapitalXB is India's first AD Cat 3 NBFC, which has been licensed recently. As far as my background goes, I am an ex-banker along with my partner Taranjit Jaswal. We have started this company 2 years back.
Okay, lovely. So, sir, there has been a very lot of mixed signals in this credit space right now. So, be it liquidity, so it looks fine on the surface. But we personally, through our readings and research, thought that there can be stress pockets also emerging in this scenario.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to dive a little deeper into this subject
Sure.
with you. So, how are you reading the current environment and businesses right now?
Yeah, so I think what we need to do is to look at from two perspectives. One
Yes,
is
sir.
the structure and one is the cyclical.
Okay.
So from a cyclical perspective, we are in a stress scenario. We all know that US-Iran war has led to multiple shocks.
Okay.
Primarily for India, it's energy shocks, and which is going into our MSMEs cost of goods. So that is creating a stress scenario for us. From a structural perspective, this has been never a better scenario. I think people have been talking about the Goldilocks scenarios for India. The debt and the NPAs of the banking sector has been very low. Growth has been good. Inflation has been low. Fiscal deficit is under control. So all in all, I think while on a structurally we are very, very strong, we are just coming out of it, but on cyclical there is a blip, and that is the stress scenario which is taking
Okay.
place.
Yeah. So on the same lines, are you also seeing any clear shift compared to last year's, like which sectors are behaving differently or similarly kind of?
Yeah, so we just need to go to what RBI and the other regulators were doing. I think there was a sort of stress on some of the regulatory issues. Some of the unsecured loans were growing very fast, and then RBI rightly came in with some sort of liquidity measures. So from that point onwards to the point where RBI has and the other regulatory agencies have started loosening a bit, I think we have come a long way. And accordingly, if we see that earlier real estate sectors and sectors related to that were under stress, now they are all coming out.
Okay.
Again, subject to what is happening on the short-term basis.
Yes, yes. Very fair, very fair. Sir, according to you, does this also feel like a cautious phase or an opportunity phase to you?
I will say that it is a cautious phase mixed with opportunity.
Okay.
Cautious in the short term because we have to give it to fact that this is the time when credit has to necessarily become conservative. They need to start tightening their belts. They need to be focused on where they are doing businesses with. But at the same time, in some shape or form, this war has also driven an urgency to reform. And reform more on the business side as well, so that they can start getting their systems and processes more tightened up. They need to be much more capital efficient, and any MSME which will pass this phase, they will definitely, I think, come out much stronger.
Oh, nice, nice. In the same context, what signals are you personally relying on to say that liquidity, demand, or borrower behavior, if we have to observe?
So, is the question around more on macro or is more on businesses?
Macro, I suppose.
Okay. So, from the liquidity point of view, we are tracking what are the GSEC yields, where they are going, and what is the total systemic liquidity which is being maintained at various interbank sectors. We are also keeping a tab on what are the RBI actions in forex market, so that will also provide some liquidity by their RBI forex interventions. So these are a couple of factors which we are keeping a very close track on.
Oh, lovely. That's very insightful. So let's build on the same and move on to more on the MSME sector discussion of ours. So where do you think that the so where do you think our MSMEs are still like struggling the most today? So is it capital access or cost of capital or altogether something else?
So I think for MSMEs, I think problem is multiple fold. So cost of funds is obviously one very big piece of it. As you know that the funding gap for MSMEs in India has been estimated somewhere around 250 billion to 500 billion dollars by various estimates, one by RBI, UK Sinha Committee, or by IMF. So depending upon whatever number you choose, the gap itself is very huge. Having said that, I think there are also problems around regulatory issues and classification issues, and they definitely need much more support from government in terms of easing the regulatory burden. So I think the problem is multidimensional.
Multidimensional. So if you had to prioritize from your perspective, what's the biggest bottleneck now, and has this changed post-COVID era?
Definitely, I think what we have seen is that government as well as the regulatory agencies have started taking note of this fact, and they have been started to, I will say, getting the alignment of regulatory architecture in line with what MSME segment needs. So like decriminalization of various acts, RBI coming out and simplifying various norms in one go. But the point is that this space needs to increase, and this space needs to percolate to the level where the MSMEs interact, so the state level, district levels, urban cooperative levels. So these are the levels at which it needs to percolate, and this needs to accelerate. So that is what is required.
That's very fair. So are we solving the credit gap actually meaningfully, or we are just shifting it across the lenders?
So I think what we need to do is that we need to see it. I think your question is very rightly. If we are we just kind of making a substitute of what a particular MSME was getting from an NBFC earlier, now it has come to CapitalXB.
Correct.
But that is just a game of, I will say, pricing. But what we are actually solving is of opportunity. Opportunity so that each and every MSME which is constrained by this particular credit issues or the compliance issues can come to us. And this problem is very, very acute in export segment, wherein the MSME exporters, which forms approx 50% of India's $450 billion of merchandise export, they face it severely day in and day out. So what we are trying to do is to create a specific strategy attuned to various export clusters.
Oh, lovely. So last in the segment is what separates these MSMEs that are successful in this current scenario versus the ones who don't succeed?
So I think all these MSMEs who will be able to formalize well and take the formalization to their heart, they will definitely succeed. And this has to be not on paper, but it has to be put in the spirit. That is first point. The second is they also need to align themselves to the strong anchors, so that their cash flows becomes much more predictable, and then they can come to companies like ourselves to get the financing commensurate to their requirements. So any MSME which is able to navigate this landscape well will be able to scale up.
Oh, lovely. Good to know that we have a lot of hopes. So in the same context, according to you, is it governance, financial discipline, market access, or something else? Can you share a real life example for our viewers?
Yes. So I think one of the first clients whom we financed was a small time toy exporter from India. They were exporting to US. And when they approached us for growth capital, we did our analysis and provided a small ticket. And then it might feel like we were just doing invoice financing kind of stuff. But what happens is that when it becomes growth capital is that when they start taking this facility again and again, and that helped them grow from a 20 crore base of exposed to 40 crores export base in 2 years. At the same time, we also expanded our support to them from 25 lakhs to approx 2 crores. So our 2 crores helped them achieve that scale in a meaningful way.
Oh, that is very inspiring, sir. So staying on this theme, let's move to obviously our global trends currently. With the current war situation, even without we directly participating as a country in the war, we are still indirectly participating, considering the ripple effects that we are having. So the Strait of Hormuz has been trending so much throughout the internet. So we thought of diving deeper into this topic with our next set of questions for you. So with everything happening globally, supply chain disruptions, be it geopolitical tensions, the uncertainties.
Yeah.
So how do you see this reshaping business decisions for us?
So if we remember maybe pre-COVID era, I think global corporates used to work on a philosophy of just in time. They used to optimize the inventory cycles. They used to make sure that the demands of the shareholders are met from the financial perspective. But COVID was the first shock, and then the Strait of Hormuz has become, I think, is reinstated or emphasized that trend. The trend has conclusively moved to just in case. The philosophy is not just in case. So people are aware that the overarching dependence on a particular country, region is very, very risky from various points. So what we see is that people are definitely very, very aware. They are looking to shift their supply chains to more supportive regions, more reliable regions. It is up to our own MSME brothers to figure out how they can optimize on this.
Correct. Excellent. Good to know, sir. So where does India realistically stand in the shift opportunity, or you think we have a lot to catch up?
Definitely, I think there are some pockets of successes, but I think the climb is steep and we have to do it much more faster. Just to give some examples, I think electronics and the phone manufacturing is obviously one very shining example.
Yes.
Obviously, services exports, we are the best. I think we are the largest, one of the largest holders of services export globally. But there are like in pharma, we are one of the bigs, but I think we need to go up the value chain. Textiles is one area where we think we are at the cusp of missing the goal. I think Vietnam's and the Bangladesh's of the world are moving much faster ahead. So I think for India, I think the picture is mixed, and we are doing some of the portions good, some of the portions better, but I think there's a huge area on which we need to do a lot of catch up.
Yes, actually that was very practical stuff you told. So in the very same context, what do you think India needs to change fully if we have to take capitalize on this current scenario in the circumstances?
So I think regulatory certainty, cutting across both government domain as well as and compliance domains is one thing. India needs a lot of tax certainty about how will be the treatment of foreign capital. So that is one very, very basic part of the architecture, which I think India has done a lot, but I think a lot needs to be done. The second part is reforms, that the reforms need to percolate to the grassroots level. And I think the speed at which this is being pursued right now. And I think what India also needs to do is to start thinking of how to create an architecture which can support MSMEs to capture this. And that is where I think companies like us can fit in. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So, sir, if we have to say, so this is the policy, infrastructure, cost competitiveness, or ease of doing business. Which one do you think is most critical, India perspective?
So, I think thinking about one point or one particular idea which is the most critical, I think doesn't put the problem to the right justice.
Okay.
So I think all are important, and I think the government, the corporate sector, MSME segment, even the state authorities all need to play their part. They need to play their part in a much more meaningful manner and at a much alacrity, at a much greater speed. If there is a concerted effort across all these segments, will there be a substantial improvement in a shorter window of time? And we should realize that this particular window which has been there, it is open for only a small period. India's demographic dividend is only there for maybe another 20-25 years. So I think the speed is of utmost importance.
Oh, excellent. So I gather as much as it is a confidence issue with us, it's also much more the synchronization of all the efforts participants for the efforts to bring us glory. Excellent. So nice. So now let's move to the exports and sectoral growth segment of our talk. How important is export-led growth for India at this stage, as according to you?
So if you see the standard narrative. People talk about that India needs to follow the East Asian countries like
Okay.
Japan, Korea, and all, where the exports used to be more than 20% of the GDP.
Hmm.
So that is not what I feel. I think
Okay,
if you see
okay.
that India hitting a double-digit trillion GDP shortly, but most of that, say 80 to 90% of that will come from the domestic demand and fulfillment of domestic demand. This has happened across China and globally as well. But what exports are important is to create a discipline around the growth. So you see a company which is also doing exporting as well as they are also catering to the Indian demands, they will always try to align themselves with the global standards, global qualities and all.
Correct.
So that is where it will help getting both very good quality products to Indian households, as well as it will able to benchmark our own MSME exporters to the global demand and global standards. And it will also help us create Indian MNCs, as we call it, like the ways Intel and the Microsoft or any GMs of the world are there. So
Correct.
so for all these perspective, I think export is necessary.
Oh, so good, sir. So, what do you think is holding the Indian businesses back from scaling globally to reach that point that you just mentioned?
Sure. So, I think it requires a concerted effort both from the government, the financial sector, as well as the corporate sector, where I think I include the MSME segment as well. So I think while the government needs to continue pushing on the decreasing the regulatory cholesterol, I think the financial sector needs to come up with a new architecture where these MSMEs, which are expanding into global markets, they need to be financed in the right manner. The architecture basis is there with the Aadhaar and India stack and all. But I think having the basic doesn't create an architecture. So that architecture is missing, and that is a, I will say, requirement of a financial sector to come up and do that. Just to give an example, for a MSME who is doing exporter, there is not a single company which handles their processes end to end, which is a pure financing to post shipment to handling their FX and then handling their documentation via DPMS. And that is where I think a company like us can come in and create an architecture and provide the support.
Oh, so basically the entire infrastructure needs to upgrade its skills, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good advice and insight, sir.
Thank you.
So in sectors like manufacturing or defense, our research says that we are still missing out a little. So what do you think we are missing out on, like scale, demand, or the execution part?
I think execution is the key.
Okay.
I think so. A lot of factors are in place, but just to give an example, in India, the logistics cost used to be 14% of the total cost of the GDP, and then it has come down recently by a wide margin. But this is there. Land cost. Land is obviously a very big problem for any company trying to operate in India. Regulatory issues are again a very big challenge. So I think unless and until these execution points are not sorted out, the growth will be very uneven. Defense sector, if you just take an example of small MSME, we have financed a defense company as well. The problem which they face is that there is not a concerted effort from government to link them up with the global supply chains.
Okay.
So Indian MSME exporters only dependent upon the export orders or the orders coming from Indian Army or Navy or Air Force cannot survive for so long. So they need to be there need to be a concerted effort for them to get into the supply chain management. Another example is, say, just to give you an example, that India's shrimps exports, when US put a tariff on them, it couldn't be exported to Europe because of some issues which got sorted when Ministry of Commerce stepped in. So this is the informational content, the non-tariff barriers which are creating problems. So these are the issues that needs to be addressed, and these are all part of execution. Execution is the key.
Yes, very true. So in the same context, do you think we have improved in recent years, or we have a long way to go?
No, we have definitely improved, but as I mentioned earlier, I think the pace is what is lacking. I think what as a social compact is required, where the society, the businesses, the government, the regulatory authorities all need to work in concert. See, in that growth phase, there will be the government, the regulatory organizations needs to take a lot of risks, in the sense that they will need to open up a lot of sectors. They will create risk, definitely. It is on us. It is on the stakeholders, like the corporates, which are going to be users of those regulatory channels. They need to ensure that there is not, I will say, misuse of those freedom which has been given. There will be some missteps, but I think the whole idea is that how we are able to navigate those steps, and then increase the pace of our growth. As I mentioned, the window is not going to remain forever, and the window will keep shrinking faster and faster. So it is on us to optimize that.
Yeah, so true. So our viewers will also agree to this point of view that pace is what matters the most.
That's correct.
In current scenario, like you rightly mentioned. So a little about your platform also, sir. So how are you positioning your platform in this evolving environment in today's scenario?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I think so what we are trying to create is an architecture, where Indian exporter can get a right kind of funding at the right time, at the right price. So as of now, I think we are focusing primarily on how to create that architecture, and that architecture is somehow, I think, at this point is almost complete. We have also done our first set of growth. So from 0 to 1 journey is complete. So right now we have a full stack which is covering both from pre-shipment to post-shipment, and handling FX, and handling documentation. All that part is complete. We have done documentation, and we have done a couple of transactions, and we have tested it. So in that sense, I think we have completed the journey where we are now ready to kind of think of scaling up. Yeah.
So lovely. So now that you're all set with the stage 1, like you mentioned, what are the kind of opportunities are you most excited about?
So I think both from domestic as well as an export perspective, I think there is a huge gap needs to be filled. India has a target of going the total exports to 1 trillion by next year, and total 2 trillion by 2030. So exports is obviously one area which is very, very important, pertinent. A lot of new sectors are coming up, be it shipbuilding, be it semiconductor manufacturing, electronics manufacturing, defense, railways. So a lot of these areas are coming up, and then we are equally excited. Renewable energy is also one very big area, which has also become very, very pertinent in times of this war of Hormuz. So I think these are the sectors which are very, very excited and exciting, and we are focused on that.
Lovely. And just I wanted to know, what are the deal types that excite you more in this same?
Yes. So I think what we are focused is on supply chain. So these are basically self-liquidating short-term transactions. And as I mentioned you earlier, I think when MSMEs utilize these short-term trade finance receivables into in multiple times, that becomes a growth capital for them. So without then thinking about generating collateral or creating hard assets which they can put it to banks for getting additional limits, they can come to us, and then it will generate liquidity for them. So that part is our key bread and butter product, and that's what we are excited about.
Oh, lovely! This is nice. So, we also wanted to know. I'm sure our viewers are also very interested to understand this. That what is the next phase of growth that you are building towards in this scenario?
So I think what we are looking for is that once our I will say product proposition is complete, our operational processes are done, the tech stack is there. What we are looking for is that how we can platformize it. So what we are going to do is that we are going to think about how we can connect two pools of capital. One is obviously MSME is creating a demand, and then there are suppliers of capital coming from equity holders or mutual fund holders. So the whole idea is that how we can connect them. So by creating a template where it can be, and over time we can also go into say securitization of assets or secondary sale of the assets. So that is one part. And then the second part is that we also want to stay focused on getting us embedded into various platforms. Like there are a lot of cross-border platforms, Amazon, Walmart, and all. So we want to be the financier of choice over there. We want to be the embedded finance provider on those platforms. So these are the two critical areas of growth for us.
Oh, very nice, sir. All ours and our viewers' best wishes with you for the same. And we are very looking forward to, being a part of this journey also with you. Thank you so very much, firstly, for featuring on our podcast and with such good, to the point, precise, and very practical insights from your end. Before we close this, I just wanted to know if there is anything, a small, quick insight that you want to share with all of us and our viewers regarding how different businesses can navigate through this scenario through your long experience.
So I think in this current scenario, I think what is important is to stay more cautious, stay focused, and don't take an unnecessary risk. But the key point to note is that the underlying strength of Indian economy is very strong, and the current short-term or cyclical issue of higher crude prices, higher input prices, they will definitely pass. But the point is that the companies who pass this with more discipline, they are the ones who will come out stronger, and they have more options to become larger in the next phase of growth.
Very good, very good. So, viewers, as per Ajitabh sir's this entire very insightful conversation, we can see that upgrading, making our architecture stronger, catching up with the pace, and all the ideas, practical insights that he has provided with, we as a country, being very resilient, can conquer this window and move towards glory. Thank you once again, sir, for being such a lovely guest on our podcast. Looking forward to do much more with you. Thank you so much.